I sent the Google Doc, and so I'm just going to go down the Google Doc. So I'm going to share that somehow. There it is. Because I think that might be easier, but I don't know if you can see it on your screen
Yeah, I can there.
very well.
Or I can bring it up on the email, whichever one's best.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, I could even enlarge that so I can see it.
yeah, on your tablet, you probably can. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Okay. So I'm just going to go down. Feel free to stop me anytime. And if you want to ask questions or whatever, that's great. Sound good?
Yep, sounds like a plan.
Okay. So I guess the first few verses, Psalm 37, be still before the Lord, wait patiently for him. Exodus 14 tells us that the Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. And in Isaiah 30, and in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. And I think today, especially today, like we have a really hard time of being still and doing all these things. And it's like I wrote, the world is busy, loud, and chaotic. And I think even inside our brain is busy, loud, and chaotic, but maybe that's just me.
It is in mine too.
And so, and I wrote, are you able to hear God's still small voice among the chaos of today's loud world? And do you need to create space for God? And of course, many people have quiet times and whatever else. And so this is just maybe one more thing that you could try and add. It's not necessarily the thing or the thing that I think everyone has to do. But I definitely think it's legitimate and maybe helpful and might give you something different, because I feel like sometimes we kind of get in a rut, even with our quiet time or whatever, and then it begins to be just something we check off instead of an actual relationship. So I guess for me, it's been something that's been different, that's kind of helped maybe deepen and given me an opportunity to be still before the Lord. All right. Yoga is not a religion. I think I used to think it was. And I've had many people tell me that why would you want to take a religion and kind of make it Christian or whatever? But really, it's more like a philosophy, and it's more of a spiritual discipline. And of course, yes, other religions use it. And so it's not just, anyway, I'm going to stop there. So yoga means to yoke. It's the idea of yoking the breath and the mind and the body together and through the movements. And when I meant it was a philosophy is because there's some people that took parts of it and made it. I guess I feel like if people don't know the Lord, then they try to explain life without him. And so there is a philosophy of behind it of just kind of good moral things to do and be. And so that's kind of a separate part, but some people that practice yoga also practice that philosophy. And then sometimes it's tied in to other religions. And we know pretty much all other religions are works based. So if you're not talking about a Christian, they feel like they need those moral codes because it's a works based religion. And so that's not what we're doing at all. But it is the idea of moving the body and connecting with the breath and the mind together, and just a body, soul, spirit, a full body. Think of Mark 12, where it says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind. And so it's just maybe a possibility of a way to do that. There has actually been arguments on, is it just Hindu or not? And they're saying that it's been found all over for many, many years before it was actually written down. And that was not when it was invented. It was just when it was kind of cataloged and systemized. So anyway, it is a spiritual discipline, just like you would think other religions pray and fast. And we don't say we can't do that because they do that. So I feel like it's a viable option. Like I said, a way to be still before the Lord. Just thinking of fasting real quick, I could fast and not be religious at all, right? I could say I'm going to do a 3-day fast just because it's cleansing for the body, right? That it could be totally not religious at all. I could fast because it's for my religion. I could also fast because I have a maybe more, what am I thinking of? Like anorexia, like that's taking it to the perverted extreme of, which is kind of a whole different twist on it. But it could be many different things. So what makes it, what makes one good and one not good? Or one Christian and not one not Christian? What would you say?
The meaning behind it, why you're doing it.
Right. Kind of the heart. What's your intention? What's your heart? Because technically, I could go to church and I can sing a song and I can go through the motions, but it's not, if it's not done with my heart, I could be doing it just right, just like a Pharisee.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anything could be done in a Pharisaical way. I don't know if that a word is that a word. So
Yeah,
we really,
pharisaical.
yeah. So we really have to check our heart, and that would go for this, but for many other things. So a holy yoga class is going to be that invitation to breathe, to stretch, and to pray. And it says, think of it more, instead of a workout, it's a work in. And so we can use worship music, we can move and kind of just give God space to be still before him and in his presence. And I think sometimes when we move our bodies, it kind of helps our brain. I say stop the squirrels. You know, you've got all these different things, whether that's it says a running to-do list or anxieties or worries that are in the back of your brain. And so kind of when you move your body, sometimes it kind of helps you get rid of the squirrels so you can kind of really think or focus in the right way and calm down or whatever that is. So if we keep going, what is a spiritual discipline? It's a habit or a practice, just to help you develop and grow and to strengthen, to build that relationship with Christ. The act itself is not for godliness. So we know, like I said, in other religions, different works are kind of, that is part of their godliness. But for this, it's just to help put us in a position of growth. That's what a spiritual discipline is, right?
Yep. I thought that was really interesting whenever I read that this morning, as I read through all these notes. I
Okay.
thought, okay, yeah, that is a good way to put it, as just another discipline,
Yeah.
spiritual discipline. I like that.
And if it's not for you, that's okay. Like I don't think it's for anyone. Like I don't think it's for everyone. Like you don't have to do it or not. Like if somebody came up to me and said I was not a Christian because I didn't go on some 40-day fast, like that wouldn't really be, like I wouldn't think that. So I'm not going to think that if you don't do this. So but I just think it's maybe helpful and it should be considered and tried.
Yeah, I've done yoga for years, and so but I'm really interested in the holy yoga. I
Yeah.
think this is just something new that it puts a different twist to it, and I am interested in learning that.
Yeah. I think it's anything. When you sit down or like, let's just stick with the fasting because that's something that's different. Like if you say, I'm going to go on a 3-day fast, you usually have maybe some sort of purpose or a desire of your heart to be close to God or to hear him and answer you, or just to seek his face about an issue or something. You've kind of set your intention on
Right.
that. And so in a holy yoga class, usually we do that as well. So we'll maybe open with like a small devotional or maybe just a couple of verses for you just to kind of think on and simmer on during you practice. And then at the end, we'll kind of come back to it while you're just in a resting pose. And anyway, just to let that sit and to set that intention of the heart. Yeah, I mentioned that. So spiritual disciplines are the ones that you're doing now, helping you achieve growth, or maybe do you need to rethink those, or maybe you even just need to come back to the basics if you've kind of lost your way. We talked about the intention of the heart, and that could be something that changes it from something that's, a humble, it's a discipline done in humility and in reverence and in wanting a desire to grow, or is it more of I'm being a Pharisee, I'm checking off the boxes, making sure I look good to other people? And so we definitely want to check our heart. It does Oh, wait, well, that's further down. Sorry. Let's see. So I said, is there a right or a wrong way to pray? And then I brought up some other scriptures later, but a couple of these talks about when you ask wrongly, to spend it on yourself. So really, it's a self-centered prayer, is what it talks about in James. And then in Matthew, it talks about a hypocrite, a Pharisee. They're just praying to be seen. I don't know. I think of a habit checker when you've got a little boxes on your day planner and you're just trying to check it off the list. And then it does mention at the end of that Matthew chapter, meaningless repetition. And there are yoga classes who will use like chants or whatever. And so that's not something you're going to find in a holy yoga class. We're not going to do that. We're not going to have vain repetitions. Sometimes I will come up with what's called a breath prayer, and we'll talk about that later. So when I read a verse, and I set our intention, like, I'll explain that later today. And sometimes I kind of take a little snippet from the verse and I'll say, maybe that's your intention or your breath prayer. So maybe when you get into a posture and you begin to breathe, you maybe consider that little prayer, but not vain repetition, not a chanting sort of thing. And then I listed a bunch of scriptures that just before I started studying this course that I hadn't really ever thought of, that throughout the Bible, there's many different postures of people praying and worshiping, and it wasn't always one particular way. But then also I was thinking of how we teach a child to pray. We tell them to maybe put their hands together, to close their eyes, to bow their head. And why do we do that? What would you say?
To be able to teach them to be reverent, and to teach them to focus and that God, to love God.
Right. Yeah. So I think posture does play a role. Like if I was turn my back to somebody, they think I'm not paying attention. We talk about body language and eye contact and that sort of thing. If I was building a relationship with a real person, right? So there can also be that posture with the Lord. And so just not something I've ever thought about before, to be honest. I mean, really, I hadn't. I mean, yes, I've done the bow your head, close your eyes, but I hadn't really thought about how it just helps me position my heart and my spiritual eyes to focus on Him. And so anyway, I just thought that was kind of a different, new aha things for me. And then to read through some of the scriptures and how different people are all in different postures, whether it says they're lifting up their hands, they're lifting up their eyes. And that was Jesus there. There's also Jesus bowing on his knees, the woman standing. Keep scrolling up here. In Second Chronicles, I listed verse 13, and they're standing before the Lord, and Jehoshaphat is actually reading the word to them. But then by verse 18, he's bowed his head, and now his face is on the ground, and then all the other people that are listening have now fallen down. So there's also this, you see different postures for different things, whether they're rejoicing or they're, when they become, they know their sin, and then they begin to fall down. So different postures, maybe for different emotions, I guess you'd say too, and different things. I fell to the fate. There was one I wanted to read though. Okay, so Ahab, 1 Kings 18 there in the middle, and it says Elijah went up and he bowed himself down on the earth and put his face between his knees. And if you've ever seen yoga and child's pose, that's what I think of now. You're bent down and face on the ground. So we're going to do that one later, but it's actually one of my favorites because I feel like it's very humbling, I guess you'd say, and more of a surrendered pose. And so now sometimes when I hear worship songs or certain songs, I just like to be in that position while I hear that and maybe sing that. But anyway, it's just different.
That is what goes through my mind when I hear that song. I can only imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess now, yeah, during worship, I feel like maybe that's a benefit of yoga that's not on here, since we're talking about benefits, is that when I'm in worship, no matter what that is growing up, I don't really feel the um, liberty, I guess you will, to raise my hands or clap my hands or move or whatever. Does that make sense? Like I feel chained in, which is my own problem. Um, and sometimes that's also the churches you attend. Some are more free and some are not. But I guess I feel like in yoga, you can turn on some yoga, you can turn on worship music and move, and it seems a little more free, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know why. It's just, it is for me, maybe just because I'm not very expressive and emotional, especially around other people. So it kind of lets me be that way, one-on-one with God. There are absolutely tons and tons and tons of scientific benefits to yoga and as far as what it can do for the body. And so I feel like if something that is that beneficial for the body and God created the body, that I don't know. I don't think anybody else can create anything. So I don't think there's another religion out there that's created anything that isn't from God. I feel like they've taken what God had and put their spin on it and maybe perverted it, but they've never created anything. And so God created the body and He created us to move. And um, I just think this is one way that can definitely be beneficial to the body. Let's see. I brought up a few verses on meditation because some yoga practices do talk about meditation, and um, some really steer clear from that. But there's the word meditate over and over and over and over again in Scripture. But it's also talking about meditating on God's word and on Him. So if you were going to just any old run-of-the-mill yoga class, you would want to be aware of that might be something that comes up that you may not want to be partake of. And so but it could be done in a way. And so that's why I feel like when we set our intention, and sometimes I give maybe a snippet of scripture just to kind of chew on, to meditate on. That's what I mean there, but not just like an emptying of the mind. We're going to sit here in silence kind of a thing, or whatever they do. I don't even know because I haven't been to one. All right. So to kind of wrap it up, yoga just means to yoke. So we're talking about our breath, maybe a meditation, or our intention is the way I like to put it, and then the postures. Things to ditch: your pride. So in yoga, you're definitely not trying to be exactly like the person that's next to you on the mat. You don't have to be super skinny, extra bendy, wear certain clothes is what I wrote on there, because they have what they would say is the fullest expression of a pose. So that might be the most athletic, skinny, flexible person is going to do it that way. But there's plenty of ways to express that pose in your body and however your body moves and bends or works. And so you have to kind of find your expression of the posture. And then, but don't be afraid to kind of push your body a little bit, but don't feel like you have to be, it has to look an exact certain way. I mentioned we're not going to be chanting. We are going to be trying to pay attention to our breath and be mindful of our breath. Props might be some things like this, which is just like a little foam block. But if you don't have that, sometimes people use pillows and blankets and books and whatever you've got sitting around the house to help. If you are going to do full yoga, please don't eat. It's really hard to do yoga, but if you've got a really full stomach and it does not feel good, you'll feel bad later. I was going to go ahead and do a little bit of warm up and then teach a sun salutation. I don't know if you want to do that with me or not, Fern, today. And
I think I'm going to watch you. I have a problem with the sun salutation, and I have a problem with a lot of poses. I've had to learn to try to modify if I even do them. Even the cat cow, my wrists are at the point that I can't put any weight on my wrists.
Yeah.
Or I have extreme pain. And so I have to use my forearms for a lot of poses, which will kind of, you don't get this excellent form on there, but it's my modification that I've got to do.
That's okay. There is a sun salutation you can do from a chair as well.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
So I'm not going to go through that one, but you could Google it. It's on, you could find YouTube. There's some chair sun salutations. So you can either stand up the entire time and only use the chair for part of it, or you can actually sit if you need to completely sit and not ever really move your bum out of the chair. Yeah. So kind of two ways to do that. So I did find, I told you there's absolutely tons of studies on science of yoga, but I found one where they did the sun salutation 24 times, 6 days a week, but they lost body fat and their BMI was lower. And so thought that was interesting that they had just done sun salutations. That was all.
Wow.
Yeah. But the reason that you'll find a sun salutation in a lot of yoga practices is because it's kind of a full body workout. And so it works, yeah, all the parts. And so if you just do that, you're still getting a good workout.
It does. It takes my breath away.
Absolutely. So
That's for sure.
you can do it really slow and you can take a few breaths in and out at each pose, or you can do it more the vinyasa way, which means at every inhale and then an exhale, you move to the next pose. So you're moving, you're kind of doing two things with every breath. So if you do it that way, it's super fast and you get hot and sweaty pretty quickly. Yes, I would agree. Okay. I'm going to have to probably readjust then, and I'm going to turn my screen share off. But this is the full expression of the sun salutation. Let's see. So I'm going to turn this off so that you can see me
Okay.
doing
Yeah,
them.
any of them there on all fours, with the weight on the hands. It's like my wrist just simply won't let me do that any longer.
I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing this. There we go. There's my button.
Hey, hi, Steph.
Okay. And then I'm going to push everything aside and squeeze myself in the office today because everyone else is at home. And so I was like, okay, where am I going to be least bothered, maybe? And I don't even know if it'll scooch back far enough for you to see it. Yeah, if I stand up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take my jacket off too.
Yeah, we haven't turned our heat on yet, so I've got a sweatshirt on today and leggings too. So it's like it's warm.
I've been cold. I was freezing. I had so many blankets, but then of course after I fall asleep a couple hours, I had to peel off a blanket and some socks to go back off. Okay, well, I'm going to read a couple verses like I normally would in a regular class. I know this isn't a regular class, but this is the first couple of verses from Psalm 62. My soul waits in silence for God only. From him is my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be greatly shaken. And I was thinking of this because we're going to work on mountain pose, which is just a standing pose. You're just standing there, but it is still a pose and you can actually work in it. And so if you want to try a breath prayer, I was just thinking for me, when I read those verses, that as far as just a prayer to God is that I trust in you. You are my rock and my salvation. And so as I'm maybe doing the poses, I can maybe think on that and chew on that, is that I trust in you. You're my rock and my salvation.